Hello, welcome to the Satellite Marketcast podcast, where we feature key executives from leading satellite companies worldwide, talk about their company, their careers, industry trends, and other insights on the exciting satellite communication industry. I'm your host, Virgil Labrador, Editor-in-Chief of Satellite Markets and Research, inviting you to another informative podcast with our featured guest today. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Satellite Marketcast podcast. And our guest today is Krystal Dredge. She's Marketing Director of AvL. It's a well-known company based in the East Coast of the United States. They manufacture antennas and other things. And this podcast is actually unique in one sense. You know, we've interviewed CTOs, CEOs. Now we're looking at it from a marketing perspective, marketing communications to be more specific. The people who do the work behind the scenes, and you know, if a company looks good and they handle their communications very well, and with the industry and with all their different publics, there's usually a person like Krystal who's behind all that. So here to talk about AvL is Krystal Dredge. So Krystal, welcome to this podcast.
Thank you, Virgil. I'm really looking forward to this. This is. I really appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me.
Right. Now, Krystal, before we get into your company, you know, you have a very interesting background. You have a degree in journalism from Kansas, the University of Kansas, which is a very famous journalism school, actually. A lot of great journalists came out of there. And then you have an MBA. And then you work for a lot of companies. Most recently, before AvL, was EMS Technologies. So, how did your journalism background actually help you in the subsequent jobs that you've had in the industry?
So having a background in journalism means that first and foremost, I'm a good writer, or I should be a good writer, and that I also should be a good communicator. And I have found with time that has really helped me in the technology field, because I work with people who are very, very technical and can't necessarily communicate their ideas to a broader audience, or even sometimes to others within the company. And that journalism background has really paid off, because I can interview someone really technical, or sit and work with somebody really technical, and take that technical information and convey it into something that is more easier to understand. Not necessarily in layman's terms, but just for people who are not necessarily a master level or PhD in engineering, to understand something that's really complex and really technical. And in all honesty, that's what I love the most about my job. I love working with really technical people, and I love communicating. And it has, having that journalism foundation has really served me well.
Right, and like I said in the preface, you know, you're doing a really good job, because AvL is very well positioned in the industry. You know, you support the media, you're active in the industry organizations. Talk about that a bit, Krystal. What is your philosophy of branding, and how do you execute that in our industry?
Well, I'm fortunate because AvL had a strong brand long before I joined the company. And as the head of branding now, I'm a fierce defender of that brand. Everything from the logo to the way messaging is used, either in an announcement on the website, in social media, all of those ways, I'm a very fierce defender of the brand. But like I said, the brand was strong before I came to the company. And the reason for that is, first and foremost, our founder, Jim Oliver, who is an engineer's engineer and engineers products that stand the test of time. The very first antenna that Jim ever made, branded with an AvL logo, is still in operation today. And that was 26 years ago.
Wow.
So we have great products. We have great engineering. We have the best customer service in the industry. So we have a brand that is quality, good products, good looking products, so nice aesthetics because of Jim's engineering. And when I joined the company a little over 8 years ago, my job became to continue defending that brand and continue to make it stronger, so that AvL still really stands out against our competing products, competing businesses. And so that we do what's the most important thing that in our industry, which is make good products and keep our customers happy. So that's my job, is to be a part of how we do that.
Right, right. Talk about that a little bit more, because legend has it that Jim Oliver started in his garage, right? 26 years ago.
He did. It was a little more than 26 years ago. He incorporated the company in September of 94, I believe. And so we're now 26 years old. Mm-hmm. And he did start the business at his house. And he was essentially retired. He'd had a previous business and he had sold it. And the engineer that Jim is, he couldn't sit still. So he started tinkering. People started calling him. He decided he found a cool technology that was being used for other applications, but he saw that it could be used for satellite communications antennas, and reached out to the person who developed the technology and got a license to use it and made the first AvL antenna. And it's still being used today. It's an SNG antenna, and it has outlived 2 trucks, if that gives you any idea.
26 years and it's still in use.
Now, that said, they've visited us a time or two and we've, tweaked it or updated or, but that's one of our big differentiators. Our products are repairable and can be updated. Our products are not meant to just be replaced. We stand behind them.
Now you have a whole portfolio of products. You have your own facility now. You own your own facility. You just launched it a few years ago, right? A new larger facility in Asheville, North Carolina.
So when Jim started the business and outgrew his home, he went through a couple of iterations and ended up in a part of Asheville called the River Arts District. The River Arts District is it's an arts community. There were buildings that were empty there, and this was prior to me joining the company, but AvL was in several different buildings, and people were constantly crossing streets and rolling products back and forth. And the business had grown to the point that Jim needed a larger facility, and he found a larger facility in North Asheville. And at the time, it was a Food Lion, a Tuesday Morning, a hair salon, a bakery, a Chinese restaurant. I mean, it was essentially a strip mall anchored by a grocery store. And the grocery store had recently closed. So Jim bought the building and connected all of the different parts, where there had been individual businesses, turned it into one flowing business. And it was about 55,000 square feet. And that has served as the company's headquarters. That's where our engineers, our sales and marketing, all of our manufacturing is there. We still outgrew the space. So Jim built another building across the street, and it's another 55,000 square feet. And so now we have an AvL Technologies campus with 2 really beautiful large buildings. And then about a mile west of that, we also have our own test range. It's about 1,600 feet, but we've got 2 towers where we just drive about a mile and we take new products out there and can test them on our own property. So we do have an extended campus, if you will, between the 2 buildings and the test range. And but all of our R&D, the first building, I should say, we've already added onto it twice also. So it's a very nice faccy, and it's very engineering and technical oriented because it is it's Jim Oliver all over.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. Actually, I've never been there, and we do these video tours of facilities as well, as in addition to these podcasts and the interviews that I do at the trade shows. So maybe when all this is past, when we get back to a semblance of normalcy, we can revisit this. So how is it now, Krystal? Talk about, we're in the midst of a global pandemic. How has AvL coped with that, situation?
Well, our first step into the pandemic was we were all at the satellite show in March. You were there too.
Yes.
We were all there. On the second day, we get word around noon that the show's ending at 6 p.m. We're not going to have a third day. A few of our folks were able to fly out and get back to Asheville. But it was it was crazy. I've been doing events like this for a really long time. I've never seen one come to a grinding halt like that.
Yeah.
So it was chaos for a day or two. And but everybody stepped in, everybody figured it out, everybody stayed safe. We finished the show, got all of our equipment back to Asheville.
Right.
So the business being a defense industrial based supplier, we did not close. We had
Right.
customers come to us and tell us we couldn't close, that we weren't planning on it. And we just did everything we had to do to keep our employees safe, with the distancing and the face protection and sanitizing everything. All internal doors are now open so that no one's touching a door to go through. And we've made it work. In fact, right after the pandemic hit, we started getting a lot of emergency orders for an antenna here, an antenna there, for setting up a MASH type hospital in a field or in a convention center. And we were able to fulfill some of those orders very, very quickly. And we have had some of our government related orders slide a little bit just because people are working from home, meetings aren't taking place. There was just that transition for a couple of months where we were all trying to figure out how to do this. And so we did have a little bit of work slide out, but we think it's a short-term problem. We expect things to be back to normal, especially from a defense standpoint here shortly.
Right, right. So did you see any changes in the way you had to do business and also in the opportunities that or markets that you're serving as a result of the pandemic?
Well, from a marketing standpoint, we certainly saw changes. Not being able to take new products out and show them to people at physical events was a challenge. And that's something we really rely on. We don't have products that, we have beautiful products. Yes, they look good on video, but people really want to touch them and see them working and see how to pack them up or how easy it is to lift one onto a vehicle.
Right.
So we came up with our own roadshow. We went out and bought a truck, we bought a trailer, and we have done numerous events of our own. And when we set them up, we keep everybody safe. Everybody, stands, many feet apart. But that way we can still do events and show things to people. And we've done that this year. Mm-hmm. And it's proven to us that we can be resilient and that we can be flexible and find new ways to address customers and get products in front of them. From a business standpoint, we've learned that even in the midst of a crisis, we can keep the business going, that we have a great group of employees. Everyone is careful and health focused and respectful. And we've had no issues whatsoever. We have had a few employees who have been sick, and when they start feeling not well, they stay home, they do the right thing, and the reporting is in place. And it, from a business standpoint, I think AvL has done a fantastic job, and we've managed it really well. And we're still keeping orders flowing and getting products to customers, and we're just going to keep that going.
Right. Yeah, talk about your portfolio of products, because we haven't really talked about that in detail. Because now you produce from the smallest antennas to a very large one, right? And what applications are they being used for?
Well, we make antennas that are primarily transportable. So that means you can put them onto a vehicle, drive them anywhere, set them up, and operate them within minutes. We also make case-based antennas where you pack these, you take the antennas apart, they disassemble very quickly, you pack them, put them into cases, you can ship them anywhere. Air freightable, ocean freightable. Some of them you can even carry onto an airplane with you as luggage. And once you get to your destination again, set them up very quickly and be on air. And that lightweight and transportability design, all those configurations, that's really where our Jim Oliver heritage comes in. With our cable drive technology for positioning an antenna, they're incredibly lightweight, and it lends to having a very flexible type of design where we can take these antennas apart and put them back together. Well, that said, we do make fixed antennas too. We don't get orders for those as often, but we do have certain customers coming to us with very specific requirements. We make a 5-meter antenna that is primarily fixed once it's in place. It could be taken apart and moved if needed, and it will operate in 7 different frequencies. With the push of a button, you can go from one constellation to the next.
Right.
So it's a very specialized product. So that's the largest we make. The smallest is 60 centimeters.
Mm-hmm.
That said, we've got other products in development. I know it's no secret that we're working on flat panel antenna technologies as well.
Right.
And we do also, so we're very well known for working with geostationary constellations for operating in geo, but we work in MEO, and we're also close to having products ready to roll out in LEO as well.
Right. It seems to me, Krystal, that from your description of your products, that post-pandemic, I don't think the markets for those have changed. So as you mentioned earlier, it can be used for defense purposes or emergency response applications. So nothing's really changed there, right?
Well, markets are constantly changing. We haven't felt an impact yet, but it's, as a business, it's our responsibility to try to stay ahead of the market and those potential changes. AvL is not known as a comms on the move antenna provider, but I hope that's certainly changing, especially with the development of flat panel antenna technology that we have going on right now. We have some incredibly brilliant engineers coming up with some really great products. So I'm excited, in the coming years to see those roll out and see what applications they can be used for. And then, with all the new LEO launches, there's a LEO launch, it seems like, in the news every week. And to be developing antennas that track LEOs. LEO is a really complex, it's a really complex system, and it's complex for tracking when you're handing off constantly. So you can certainly do that with a parabolic antenna with an X over Y and other types of antennas too. But I do think that, the flat panels with electronic steering and being able to communicate with multiple satellites at one time, that's the direction that markets are headed. And I don't think we're going to have this figured out soon. I think it's going to take longer than most people realize because it is so complex, but we're going to get there. So it is going to change a lot of markets for us. Now, from an AvL standpoint, I really do agree with AvL's leadership and especially our engineering leadership and our view of the market, that if you get a parabolic antenna 1 meter in size or smaller, those are the antennas that the flat panel technologies are likely to replace. When you're working with a much larger need for bandwidth, something like say a 2.4 meter antenna, where you can have an amazing amount of bandwidth going through that. So a significant gain. That's not as easy to replace with the flat panel. Between the power requirements and a lot of other issues related to operating those antennas, we don't see those markets changing anytime soon.
But what markets are you most bullish at for AvL, do you think, in the next few years?
Well, AvL's top customer, top end user for many, many years has been the U.S. military, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Right.
Our products are rugged, they're reliable, they can be used for many, many, many years. We've had antennas that have been shot. We've had antennas come back with holes in the reflector, shrapnel marks, and we take them out to the test dock and turn them on and they still work. So our antennas really do serve a need for the men and women in our U.S. military. And when they're deployed in dangerous areas, they know our products are going to work and are going to enable them to communicate when they need to. So I don't see that changing anytime soon. And we're very proud of the products that we sell to the military. And I'm proud of the fact that we enable communications in really dire circumstances, and that we also enable communications for other purposes as well, just maintaining communications with families or other service members in other parts of the world. I really hope that at some point that we're all able to go back to whatever view of normal we had before, and that we're able to do more things in person again. I think of all the things that have transpired with this pandemic, the things that I miss the most are being able to see people face to face And I love launching products. I love going to events and meeting people and seeing our customers and hearing the stories of what works, hearing the stories of what doesn't, and taking that back to engineering. Something needs to change. I just really hope that we do get past this sooner than we're expecting, and that we can all be moving our industry, moving our companies, moving our products forward again, but with face-to-face opportunities. And I know that AvL will always continue to support, satellite executive briefing and others out there. We love being a part of this community, and we're proud of what we do. And I just can't wait to actually see you again in person, Virgil.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I think your sentiment is echoed by almost everyone in the industry. Everyone I talk to says the same. The satellite show where we last met seems like a long, long time ago. 7 months, and that wasn't even a full show. It was 2/3 of a show. So we're all ready to get back, and there's nothing. I worked in a teleport before, and there's nothing like watching a demo, seeing a product in action, and I can see that you're really very passionate about this, and that's good to see. Actually, that it's not just these aren't just machines. These are almost living. I think there's a book called The Soul of a New Machine. Which there's a life to it, or a soul, if you even go even further, and you embody that, Krystal. Yeah. And I like your marketing approach, wherein AvL, you're very supportive of not just the media because it can give you publicity, but you're also very active in the industry organizations, the SSPI, the GBF, and all that, which do a lot of good work in the industry. We're all part of this industry. Some people kind of miss that sometimes, that there are many different players in the industry. The media is part of it. The industry associations are part of it. Of course, the companies are the core. They're really what makes the world go round, and then the customers, of course, the users, and
At AvL, we really have kind of two arms that we reach out with. One is the local community, the Asheville community, and this all goes back to Jim Oliver. The company is a huge supporter of local schools, of STEM education, of the arts community and community events. We've contributed to the building of, I think, 8 Habitat for Humanity homes in the last 8 or 9 years. And I, for one, I'm really appreciative of Jim Oliver and the culture he's created, and the fact that we're so encouraged to be part of our community and to make a difference in so many different ways. But we're also encouraged to be part of our industry. And we have so many great organizations in this industry. I'm thrilled that AvL works with GVF, with WTA, with SSPI. I'm a big fan of the Better Satellite World Committee, or Satellite World Campaign, because satellite communications really, truly is indispensable. It really does impact all of our lives every day. And it's that invisible part of communications that so many people don't realize, how important satellite communications are to everything we do. Imagine a world today without GPS. We'd never be able to find our ways anywhere, would we?
Right.
But it's so critical, and I'm thrilled to be part of a company that is so proactive with these great industry organizations, and as long as we keep selling great products and being an integral part of this industry, we're just going to keep forging ahead, all of us together collectively. The other thing about this industry I really love and appreciate is that even though we have competitors, we're all friends. We all collaborate. It's so interesting that it's one industry where your competitor is also your customer, and you just never know what that next project is going to be, where you're collaborating with someone who you were fiercely competing with a year ago or 2 years ago. So it's a really unique industry in that regard, but it's also really inspiring to see how great companies come together and solve problems and keep this industry moving forward and just doing great things. It's fantastic.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Krystal.
Well, thank you, Virgil. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Yes, Krystal Dredge, Marketing Director of AvL Technologies, a company that we've been following very closely in the Satellite Executive Briefing and the www.satellitemarkets.com.